Jennifer, how are you?
Ryan, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, I'm excited. So we had to actually just like stop ourselves from yapping and then hit record because everybody else should listen to what we're talking about. I am extremely pumped to dive into this conversation for the next hour. And I'll just set some context because I was out, not only for our clients and for our Kona and just me being involved in the sales and marketing space for just most of my life. This whole world of marketing is pixie dust and rainbows and unicorns, and I'm not just saying that because of my little girls, but I came across you. You and I had a conversation, and it was like, oh my god, someone that actually has a breath of fresh air. So hopefully I didn't tee up too much, but let's get the listeners a little bit of your background and how you got to what you're doing, and then we've got plenty to talk about. I know that.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. It's been so fun to get to know you and have these conversations with you. And I'm just delighted to be here today to deep dive on some of the themes we've already been dancing around. But to introduce myself, I'm Jennifer Zick. I'm the founder and CEO of Authentic Brand. We're a national community of fractional CMOs who help growing businesses to overcome random acts of marketing and confidently take the next right step in their growth. This company I founded just almost 5 years ago, and I built it based on a couple of challenges I saw in the world that I was eager to start solving. One of those challenges was that I myself had been head of sales and then head of sales and marketing and head of marketing for fast-growing entrepreneurial business through a lot of different stages of growth. And then I moved on and worked in large enterprise and mid-market businesses. And along the way, I started to see some patterns and I learned about myself. I learned that I was really passionate about earlier stage growth companies. For me, that means about 5 million to 100 million in revenue in that formative growth stage when companies have found their footing with a product or service that they know can sell into the market and now they're ready to scale. That is just so fun for me. But what I knew from being inside of that kind of a company is that they often don't have access to executive marketing leadership and people who've been there, done that at scale before. And so they spend a lot of time guessing at how to put marketing together. And I thought 5 years ago, wouldn't it be great if small businesses had access to marketing executive leadership sooner than they would usually hire for that role? So that was one challenge I was super stoked about. And the other was that I knew my marketing peers, many of whom, like myself, had had great success in leading great brands, but we're ready to leave corporate politics and red tape behind and do meaningful work for small business, right? And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could bring all these wonderful, brilliant marketers together in a community where they lay their armor down at the door, they get vulnerable, they are generously sharing with one another, and together all of their shared marketing experiences could help propel all of our small business clients. So that is the basis for Authentic Brand, and today our fractional CMO services continue to grow with clients across all different business models and all different industries all across the US. So it's been an incredibly fun ride.
I am really there's so much to pull apart in this. I'm so excited because I'll just tee up like we talked about prior to hitting record is that, my experience from running our family business, traditional sales model with 20 salespeople, and then getting into the consulting space, and then after creating Arcona, it dove way too far into the digital marketing space. Like I joke around, I'm like I took everybody's online course about Facebook ads or paid ads or website building or like social media, this or that, and like the challenges that I see and I personally experienced is that you have like these massive silos and you have these owners that like want to accomplish a certain thing, like grow my business the right way with the right customers, with the right profit margins. But then the marketing, it's like pixie dust. I literally had a customer say pixie dust and, this hocus pocus marketing, because like not tracked, or you go and engage it with someone, it's a SEO expert or a social media expert or something, but there's like no comprehensive plan. And after even being on our own journey, trying to find some of these resources for ourselves and our clients, came across you is like interesting. And I want to pull apart the skill set of these executives that you talk about and like where you're getting them and how is that different than like the typical marketing professionals that are out there that a lot of these business owners actually are running into.
Yeah, well, we find our CMOs in the pixie dust magic universe. They're hard to come by.
They're the fairies and the wizards, right? Perfect.
The magic. Whatever that voodoo magic marketing land is, that's where we find. No, For real, though, all of our CMOs share some common characteristics and very diverse backgrounds. So I'll answer that question for you first. And then, Ryan, I'd like to speak into some of what you were starting to dig into in your experience, having been a business owner and then a consultant and building your brand. So all of our CMOs are entrepreneurial CMOs who have decades of experience working in-house with companies, building high-performing marketing teams and programs, and scaling those teams programs to build brand and revenue and growth. That's the common denominator. They come from all industries, and they've worked in B2B, B2C, e-commerce, distributor, all of the different business models, but they all have entrepreneurial spirits as marketers. They are all passionate mentors and builders of teams. None of them have come from only the ivory tower elite enterprise marketing world where they have billions of dollars in resources and hundreds of team members. Our CMOs are a lot closer to ground level, if you will. Some of them have worked in large enterprise, and all of them have worked in small and mid-market businesses and been successful. And they can take all of those shared experiences to bear in solving our clients' challenges. So when you work
Jennifer, I was just going to say, let me interject there too, because like you touched on something that I thought was interesting. Is there's the ivory tower, and actually I've talked to people like, oh, we ran Best Buy's marketing. It's like, well, who cares? Like your budget's bigger than the revenue of most of these clients, and then the alternative is these ninjas or freelancers of very unique skill sets. So are you talking that you're somehow finding people in the middle there that understand the big picture but can actually understand the technical details too?
Yeah, well, many of our CMOs have led enterprise and global initiatives for sure, but they've all led in small and mid-sized business, and they know what it takes to be at ground level and build from there as good stewards of those resources, right? Because there's not established brand and market share already that provides like this assumed brand air cover.
Right.
You've got to build it. You've got to build it. So that is what we have in common in our DNA. But I want to speak to how our model solves for the challenges that you were just describing, because they're very real. And I felt them too as a sales and marketing leader. And not to date myself and age myself too heavily, but when I first entered my
wisdom and experience, Jennifer.
Here's the wisdom. Here's where the silver hairs come from. When I first entered my career more than 20 years ago in sales and marketing roles, the marketing tool set was pretty traditional still. There was paid advertising, print, public relations, right? There were all the different advertising channels that existed at that time. There was cold calling. There were trade associations, event sponsorships. That was a pretty typical traditional marketing package. Fast forward only 20 years, which in internet time is 48 million lifetimes, but truly only a couple of decades worth of time has gone by. And the marketer's toolkit is now thousands of tactics, hundreds of channels, thousands of technologies. The amplification and the diversification and the complication of the marketing ecosystem has just blown up, right? So how on earth could a founder of a business know how to put all of that together not even a single marketer has the answer for that.
Right.
And what has happened during this transformation timeline is where larger businesses used to be able to rely on an agency of record that bundled together all the traditional components, that just is broken. It doesn't work very well anymore for large enterprises, and it never worked for small business. Small businesses used to be able to tap into some of those traditional channels, but now they need to tap into the wisdom of how to navigate a really complex landscape because they still need to build the right mix for their unique business. So our model helps to provide that centralization to bring the wisdom in-house. As a fractional CMO, we work part-time with full accountability for that marketing leadership role. We sit at the client table, not outside the organization. So we're not representing our toolkit of what we'd like to sell to you, whether it's a tactical or a technology.
You're not making your profits on products, right?
Or any particular kind of service. But we sit on the inside with our clients and help them navigate the landscape of opportunity for where to focus their resources and their strategy, and then navigate the landscape of services and technologies that will help to power that. And we centralize that, as good stewards of their resources. So we really become their partner in arms. And I want to give a shout out to all the hardworking, brilliant agencies that are very important. They're more important than ever. Like that SEO maven you talked about, that content strategist, that digital expert. Those skill sets are incredibly important. And it's important for small businesses to find the right set of skills to solve their specific issue. It's really
Right.
hard for business owners or sales leaders to know the difference between a search engine optimization and a search engine marketing expert. They sound the same and they're not.
All right, right, and we're gonna dive into some of this, and you've trademarked the random acts of marketing. We can get into that, but before we do that, just some context, Jennifer. What I love about when I was talking to you, and like kind of just the philosophical problem that I've had with the marketing world is that like growing up in sales, like the whole goal is to build a relationship so your customer trusts and buys from you. Period.
Yes.
And I think so many people lost sight of all this stuff to automate everything. And then like you're gonna do this like insane funnel to like automatically get customers. And I probably have 250 LinkedIn messages right now that promise that. But like the reality is like, what is the client acquisition cost that's gonna be needed to generate the sales that you need that you can then have the profits that you need to go to normalize EBITDA with the valuation that you want. And most people have forgotten about the customer journey. And like I
Yes.
think about sales, Jennifer, like you start with a cold call, then you do coffee, then you do a lunch, then you go on a golf tournament, then you send them a card, then you send them Christmas presents, and like it's a building a relationship.
That's
And
right.
there's just different tools. And like I think where people get lost is they just got sold that like this one tool is like the solution to all the whole customer journey, and it's just so wrong, and it's paralyzing when you think about like you said, like what is there, a million probably SaaS tools that all fit somewhere in that customer
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I've written extensively about these kinds of topics on our website and on our blog over the years because there absolutely is a lot of snake oil and pixie dust being sprinkled out in the market with technologies and tactics being promoted as some kind of silver bullet solution to building your business and your brand, and they're simply not. There's a couple key truths that business leaders need to keep in mind. First of all, you cannot outsource your brand. Brand is bigger than a logo and a color palette. It's bigger than demand gen. It's bigger than creating leads. Brand is the experience that every single stakeholder has with every single touch to your business. So it matters. Your brand is part of your prospective employee experience. It's part of your
Hmm.
customer experience. It's part of your investors' experience with your company, right? Brand covers all of that. So there are very powerful tools and tactics that can support and lift your brand. But like what one of my prior coworkers used to say, if you just turn on all of this brand, all of this marketecture and automation and the tools and
Architecture.
technology, yeah,
I love that word.
marketecture is one of my favorite words. I feel like I invented that word. I probably didn't,
I'll
but
give
I've
it
been
to you.
okay. Thank you. I'll trademark that one too. But you can turn on all this stuff. But if your brand's not strong and your message is not strong, you're just going to make your message suck faster to more people. And do you know
That
what
is,
that does?
I
That
love it.
erodes your brand. That
Hmm.
erodes trust. It erodes the experience. So I'm 100% with you. And it doesn't hurt that I started off in sales before I ever became a marketer. And now I'm back to sales again. Whether you're B2B or you're B2C, you're human to human in
Hmm.
how your brand is experienced. And so too many companies have lost track of that, and they've tried to automate and process and just throw ad dollars at and outsource marketing activation. You
Hmm.
cannot outsource your brand. You have to own it, shepherd it, and integrate everything that goes behind it to power it.
So then totally tracking it, and I love it. And so you gave one key truth. I don't want to interrupt you if you got a couple more, if there's but like one of my questions on that is, people lost sight of this, the common sense of what does it take? Like how many touch points? If you're selling sunglasses on Amazon, it's going to be an Instagram ad and you click to buy. And then there's like versus like what I do, it's the podcast and the speaking, and same thing with you, and it's way different. And so
Yes.
how do you figure out like what is being done and what should be done? And then
Yes.
the other question that is like how much are you going to spend to do that? And
Hmm.
because like I said, common sense. Like I'm not on Snapchat or TikTok. Business owners
Nope.
aren't just prowling Snapchat to find us. I mean, it's just
Nope.
ridiculous. And so like what's refreshing about that, the fact that I know that is that I can ignore it. And
Yes.
so I don't know if there was a question in there, or more
There were
just
a
like,
lot of questions in there. Let me start unpacking some of that.
yeah,
So,
sorry about that.
okay, we talked about how much marketing has changed and gotten more complicated and diverse, but let me bring it back to the other side of that coin. Marketing is the same as it's ever been, which is answering a few simple but really foundational questions for building your business, which is, what is our business's purpose? What is our big why? Why do we exist in the world, and how do we change lives? Like literally, if you don't know how you change lives, I don't know what you're doing in business. So
Hmm.
answering that question first, your big why, your purpose, however you want to get to that. And then you start answering the questions then, okay, if this is our purpose, this is our life-changing mission, then who needs to matter to us and how do we matter to them, right? Once you know that with clarity, and let me give you a clue, it's not everybody. It's not everybody, even if you could deliver something, even if everybody should own those sunglasses you talked about, your market is not everybody. You got to drill down deep. And once you know who should matter to you and why you should matter to them, then you have to ask, to your point, then where do we intersect their world,
Hmm.
right? In your business and in mine, we sell B2B. Those buyers, even if they have a TikTok account, they don't want to see us on it. I mean, you probably have good dance moves though, Ryan. I'm going to guess.
Oh, well, maybe my girls, but not
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah. So who matters to us? Why should we matter to them? How do we intersect their universe? And then this is key. The next question is not, then how do we sell them what we sell? It's how do we help them? How do we solve their problems? How do we become trusted to them? How do we give them value?
Hmm.
And then you commit to the giving process. And when you're selling B2B, that's a long-term commitment. You're going to court this universe of would-be buyers for a really long time. And so, I have conversations every day. Our buyers are companies 5 to 100 million in revenue. We sell to the CEO founders. These companies have been founder-led, sales-driven. They've been built on the reputation and their immediate frame of networked relationships and then word of mouth referrals, right? So they're accustomed to highly qualified referred opportunities that are ready for whatever they sell. That's what their universe has been, right?
Yeah, right. When that
And now they want,
just turn that on,
that's
turn the
right,
spigot on, and create more of that.
right. So now they want to scale. So scaling means, okay, we're going to move beyond the universe of people who already know us and are ready for us. And we're going to start to draw in the people who should know us, who we want to be ready for us in the future. That means casting a net. I'm going to mix my metaphors here. I do it all day long. It means throwing seeds out into specific, planting seeds in specific places, knowing it's going to take a while for them to grow and to produce a harvest. So you asked, well, then how much should we spend and how long should it take? Big fat, it depends. That's what
Hmm.
your CMO will help you navigate as it relates to realistic resourcing for your specific business and how you find and intersect your audience's world. Big ranges there. But, my job is to set expectations with our buyers. There's no such thing as a light switch or a faucet that turns on highly qualified, ready to buy leads in 90 days. So
Like I said, I don't know. There's 250 LinkedIn messages that very, very much disagree with you.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Well, if you find one of them has that magic light switch or
Yeah,
faucet
the spigot.
formula, you let me know. I've been searching for it. It's like the fountain of youth. But there's just that does not exist. So if you're serious about scaling into worlds of buyers that don't know you yet or aren't yet ready but should be someday for what you do, and you want to get your brand in front of them as a trusted resource so that they are thinking of you when they are buyer ready, that takes time. And in a B2B world, I'm talking about 2-3 years. Okay.
Hmm.
So, even in our 5-year-old business, we've been planting seeds from day one in terms of creating content that I knew would take 3 years to produce organic leads. And sure enough, 3 years later, we started seeing those organic leads. We're
Hmm.
now building community strategies to build deep, high trust relationships that I know are going to be 18 to 24 months before opportunities start to surface. And we're right on track. So
It's
it's,
super helpful, super
yeah.
helpful, and that's like, is that the random maybe talked it, or we just covered on the random acts of marketing, and I don't know if we covered that, and that's just your way of kind of packaging up what we're discussing right now, or if there's other
Yeah, well,
examples.
I can elaborate on it. That phrase came out of the first couple of years of building Authentic Brand and meeting with CEOs and founders and hearing their pains. One day I just naturally said that to somebody, like, it feels like you're committing random acts of marketing. And the CEO's eyes and the CFO's eyes both got huge. They looked at each other, they nervously laughed. And I knew I struck a chord. And so
Hmm.
I started using that phrase in sales meetings, and the same thing happened every single time. And companies know, they know when they're committing random acts of marketing, because what it feels like is that marketing is nebulous. It's a money pit. It's a black hole. It's foggy. It's squishy. We don't know what we should even measure for ROI. We don't even know what metrics matter. We don't know if we've hired the right people. We don't know if we're funding it correctly. We just don't know, right?
And
So,
everybody's probably going, Jennifer. Like
yeah,
everyone's
and
listening in
that's
right now.
painful. And it's painful. And it's true that marketing requires placing your bets, right?
Hmm.
Marketing requires experimentation, because there is no such thing as a one and done marketing strategy. You don't write a strategy, put it in a binder, and then execute it for 12 months flawlessly, seeing, growth all along every step of the journey. Your marketing strategy is only real when it's making contact with the market. When it makes contact with the market is where you learn what works, what doesn't work, and then you can, you know, move from there.
And intentionally move in the right direction. And
That's
I
right.
think so there's two questions that have not only myself, but the listeners are probably thinking is one is my business may be different. And you and I both know that, everybody's unique to a certain degree, but there's a lot of common themes, but regardless of the business. But so how do you take a company and then assess this? And then how do you actually determine the customer journey, the types of touch points, like where you should be,
Yeah,
how to do that? And then how do you track it? Because like the way to eliminate that ambiguity is by data. And so
that's
like
right. Yeah.
how do you take that squishiness and make it real?
Yeah. Well, data is part of it, okay? It's not the whole. So the way that we do that is we've taken all the wisdom of our combined CMO mindshare community, and we've developed a proven methodology that we call authentic growth methodology. And it is not a one size fits all formulaic approach of do steps A, B, C through Z, and you will see positive outcomes and ROI within X amount of days at X% evaluation increase for your business. It's not that. What it is a simple set of tools, frameworks, and meeting cadences that help teams build alignment, accountability, and activate according to their plan and iterate with agility along the way, right? So it is, it's not rocket science. It's simple, but it is not easy. So, with
Hmm.
our methodology and our CMO leadership, we teach developing marketing teams how to build rigor, how to demystify marketing, how to align with executive leadership and the vision for the business, and then demonstrate the how and why things are being activated, to what end,
Hmm.
and to what insight to inform how the company is going to resource that in the future. So, it becomes a platform, if you will, for insightful conversation to wisely shepherd your marketing resources and to plan ahead.
Well, and I think what's super interesting, before getting in touch with you, is that there's like you go to the traditional PR person, or like any of those specific siloed marketing resources, or and like indirectly, when I should not indirectly, unconsciously the leader is choosing to be that CMO, regardless of whether like how they're doing and going about trying to find those components versus having someone that understands how the machine, how the mousetrap's built, and then what should be done next. So like, how do you take like if it was me and I've got the $4 million company and I'm saying, okay, I would like to scale. Like, what is the process to do that, and how do you take someone from where they are now and where they want to go, and what are like the common things that you see that are working? And I don't know if there's
Yeah.
again, I'm doing
Yeah.
it to you
Well,
again, just
no, no,
like lots of
no.
questions.
I'm following where your question is leading, I believe. So I'll start by saying we work primarily with businesses 5 million and up. And when they're working with Authentic Brand, we're a fractional marketing leader, like I said, part-time in the seat with full accountability. What we're not, I'll just preface, we're not a low-cost alternative to making a full-time marketing hire. We are a low-risk, faster to impact. And that is because of the wisdom of our leaders, our mindshare community, and our methodology, right? All of that combined. But how we help clients move the needle, first of all, we don't presume anything. What we don't do is come in with a strategy before you've even hired us that presumes to know all the right answers with the right tactical ingredients and a budget tagged on it. That's what an agency would do for a specific
Hmm.
project scope. We're not an agency. We're an executive leader, just like hiring a full-time CMO. But what we do differently is, instead of onboarding like a traditional employee and spending the time to fully onboard and kind of get under the helm, we've developed a methodology that lets us onboard effectively and really quickly and in a more tangible way with our clients, so we can quickly be both at the helm and under the hood, right? We're going to step in as a leader, taking charge of whatever exists today for marketing activity, staff, agency relationships. We're going to assess and integrate. We have tools that we use up front for a simple assessment, a deeper audit, to quickly get to a marketing action plan that becomes the core component of the marketing annual roadmap. So that is all happening up front. And then we're digging under the hood. We're looking at data and analytics. We're looking at the quality of your systems and your Marcom infrastructure. We're looking at your assets, your artifacts, any research you have, right? We're really taking a look at your universe in order to inform the strategy going forward. So what does that feel like? The impact of a fractional CMO on the front end is going to be recommendations for where we can manage expenses where they're not delivering results. How can we make team members more effective by clarifying their roles and their greatest contributions from their seat? How do we integrate agency services so that everybody knows how they're impacting the strategy and how the dots connect? And then how do we help you plan forward so you can confidently know, okay, here's where we sit today with our resources and what's active. Where do we need to be in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months in terms of staffing or other resources or budget to keep us moving in the right direction?
I love it, and it's organization behind it. Like, let's get into some stories and examples of like, how do you when you're taking someone that has either neglected the marketing department, or sales and marketing are like wildly separate divisions, not talking, and or either they have no budget or like an ineffective budget. What are people doing these days that is actually working? And like how, right? Like how are they going about and effectively scaling their brand without just, pissing money out the window?
Well, it begins with focus. And you just named off a few different challenges there that look different in the different kinds of companies we work with. So you said if they don't have any marketing budget, if that's the case, we're probably not the right solution for them. Because when we enter a company, an organization, they usually have a 6 to 7 figure marketing activation budget. They have been doing the marketing stuff. They're just not at all confident that they're doing it in the right order, in the right volume, at the right pace, with the right partners, with the right staff. Like, they're just not sure they're doing the right stuff in the right way, right?
Super helpful. Yep.
So how we address those challenges. So let's talk about sales and marketing alignment. So first of all, we tend to break some stereotypes as it relates to the role of marketing in entrepreneurial organizations. Many entrepreneurial organizations that we work with, that are those small growing businesses, want to have or have had traditionally one executive team member, head of sales and marketing. 99.9% of the time, that is a sales manager who's been promoted to oversee sales and marketing. And when that's the case, you have a visionary CEO, a head of sales in a founder-led, sales-driven organization that expect to be working on referral quality deals all day long. And they think that marketing should just simply activate whatever ideas they have, or be creating leads that look like, qualified opportunities. And so I'm
laughing because it's so that totally resonates.
Familiar?
Yeah, it totally resonates with me.
Okay. So it's broken because when marketing reports to sales management under a visionary selling type leader, marketing is not empowered to say no. And they will be an order taker all day from the shiniest object chasers in the organization. And so we start by breaking that dynamic by putting marketing at the executive table, because marketing is going to have a long game view for brand building, customer experience, the entire journey, the infiltration of the brand through every stakeholder relationship, yes, and collaboration with sales. And the dichotomy of the sales urgency right now, close those deals mentality, and the marketing long-term strategic brand building view is what helps a business grow. So they both need a seat at the executive table. We fill it. And then we bring those stakeholders together in really productive, high-value conversations on a quarterly basis and an annual planning basis to make sure we all went on record saying yes to the same things. And now we have a documented plan and we can remind ourselves what we said yes to, so that if shiny objects come down the pipe, marketing is in a position to say, hey, I hear you. I want to support you. Here's what we agreed to. if we are going to change direction, that means we're going to shift our timeline, our resources, or our outcomes. How would you like us to do this, right? How can we work together? So
I love it. So I got to ask, what is your definition of sales versus marketing, and how are they different, and how do they actually work together?
yeah, well, in our B2C clients, they really don't have sales teams, right? They are all
Mm-hmm.
marketing
Mm-hmm.
driven. So we
That
got to
makes,
kind of
yep.
step that over here. A lot of what we're talking about here, the dynamics are B2B, right?
Okay.
Or in a
Yep.
combined
Yep.
organization where they have both. So in B2B, first of all, because I've been in sales and sales management and marketing management, I feel like I have authority to say this, or I've earned the right to say
Yeah.
everybody deserves credit for every win. The most toxic thing you can do in a B2B culture is try to separate out the credit for who got which deal. Does marketing get the credit for this sourced revenue and sales for this sourced revenue? That's toxic and dysfunctional because there is no straight line to revenue in a B2B organization. Everything that you and I are doing right now to create content and value to educate people is part of building trust and building awareness, which may lead somebody to somebody's website to fill out a contact form that gets directed over to sales. That, it all works together. And the average B2B deal has 5 to 7 stakeholders that all need to be brought through the journey. And the average deal cycle is anywhere from 6 to 24 months. Marketing's playing a huge role
Mm-hmm.
in every brand, or should be. So all teams should get the credit. The whole ship rises.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. What do you, here's how I've just tried to describe it in the past is like marketing. So sales is when there's a human being that's needed. And I don't know if that's just too simple. Like, okay, like all this brand awareness and there was a click and then there was this, and then all of a sudden we're scheduling a call and then sales gets on the call. And which is super different because I grew up in a copier. I mean, it was copier business, 400 phone calls, 15 appointments, 7 net news, 5 closes. Yeah. I mean, like sales was always starting the relationship, which is not always the most effective way to do it. So I'm curious, like when you have the comprehensive journey and marketing and sales are both playing a role, like is my statement accurate, or is it like, is there more of a gray area in between?
Well, it depends. Are you and I here today speaking as sales leaders or marketers?
Oh, it depends on what line item of the budget we're talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So in most B2B organizations, marketing is playing more of a behind the scenes role, less of direct on the call with the clients. But marketing often plays a very direct customer role when it comes to hosting high value, high touch events, creating webinar content that engages those audiences, right? The marketing needs people too. And I really preach for having your marketers aligned to engage directly with clients, to be the face that helps to capture the customer success story and relay it back, to be the face that's engaged in community building. Not all marketers, sales is a certain kind of persona. Salespeople are high on the woo, winning others over and being face people for the company. Some marketers are more behind the scenes personalities, but when you can bring marketers into customer conversation, they're going to be better marketers because they're not guessing at what customers really need, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even when I was no longer in sales and I was only in marketing, I was always actively engaged in client relationships and sharing resources and content with them and arm in arm with my sales comrades, right? And like designing events and experiences that customers, they trusted our brand and the marketing team and the sellers. So I don't think it's either or.
What are there's like specific KPIs that you think marketing should be kind of measuring and monitoring versus like a sales like set of KPIs, or how are you measuring and monitoring what's working?
Yeah, it looks different in every organization based on where their maturity is in their data and predictive analytics and MarTech stack. So I use this really stupid, simple example. If you have 2 years of clean CRM data in terms of pipeline management and behavior, and you can start to harvest some of that intelligence to do predictive analytics and drive down into like, well, if deal velocity is this and stage gating is this and size is this and blah, 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 then we need X amount of SQLs, this amount of marketing qualified leads to get there, right? This much engagement to get the marketing qualified leads. That's wonderful when you get to that point. Most entrepreneurial businesses that we work with when we step in, they don't have 2 years worth of clean, well-managed data. They're far from readiness for predictive analytics, right? Where they're at is like Do you think we could muster up the accountability to produce 3 case studies this quarter? Yes? Let's put that on our scorecard. Did we do it? Yes? Good.
Yeah, high
You've
five.
started high five. You've started doing the activities that lead to engagement, that lead to data, that becomes a baseline that you can start to model off
Hmm.
of.
I
Okay,
love
so
it.
we set KPIs based on the maturity and the stage of the company that we're working with, based on what they need to measure to build muscle. I mean, just the best example would be if you start seeing a personal trainer at the gym. Your metrics are going to be really different if you've been training all along and now you're training for a triathlon versus if you're just getting off the couch for the first
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
Yep.
100%. Totally makes a bunch of sense. And so you and I were talking prior to hitting record, some of the things that you see that you're doing, as well as other brands and companies to get
Yeah.
out of the owner's trap of the owner or even maybe the sales and marketing exec being the main primary contact. So let's talk about some of the things that you're seeing.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm understanding your
The
question there
community, you were talking
clearly.
about the community brand.
Oh,
Sorry,
the
I didn't mean to
community.
be,
Yeah,
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 I
yeah.
didn't mean to be ambiguous about it.
No, that's okay. Let me back into that one. So, Authentic Brand, obviously, as a fractional CMO firm, we have to practice what we preach. We have to be good at investing in our own brand building and our own marketing along the way, right? We should be our own very best case study. So, who are we? We are a B2B professional services firm that serves a now national audience of clients. When I started the company 5 years ago, my first business plan was intentionally setting us up to be a regional boutique with regional clients for the first 3 years so that we could really be sure of our go-to-market offering and how we wanted the customer journey to be before we started expanding. So all along, I had a plan to nationally expand in 2021. Well, of course, COVID came along. So prior to COVID, we were still really focused regionally with some strategic relationships pulling us into broader markets. And I had this thought about creating a gathering hosted here at our office in Minneapolis with a couple dozen other executive business leaders. Remember that conversation we had several minutes ago about asking the questions of why do we exist and who should
Hmm.
care and why should they care about us? And then how do we give them something of value? I'm always asking that to myself. In our world, our buyers are CEOs of entrepreneurial businesses. Many of our buyers happen to run on business operating systems like EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system based on the book Traction. Okay. We run on EOS. So I attend, EOS conferences every year, and I'd come back to Minneapolis and think, I really want to get to know the other EOS business leaders in this market because I think we could learn and grow together in how we're building our businesses. And it would be awesome if they were thinking of us before they ever have a marketing need. So
Hmm.
what can I give them of value? So I did a little bit of research and thought, if the CEO is our buyer, how do we get them all together? Well, what I learned was CEOs, they don't actually want one more thing to do. They've all got peer groups already, Vistage, EO, whatever it might be, right? But guess who's really influential in the decision for authentic brand services? Not just the CEO, but their operator, their
Hmm.
integrator, their COO or CFO. And I thought, well, that's a universe that does not have a peer group. We could create that. I could create value for that community. And so I offered to host a meeting for integrators at our office. And we had like 20 people signed up for this last April. And then COVID hit
Yeah,
in
April
March.
2020.
That's right. So we pushed pause on that live event. And then I thought, well, I'm not just going to sit on this forever. We made it a virtual format. And instead of 20, we had 75 attendees the first month. And then I saw that people were engaging that I hadn't even invited. Like it was already word of mouth at that point. So I'm a marketer. I leaned in on that and started making sure people knew to invite and engage and started talking about it. Within 18 months, we built a community of over 1,000 integrators across the country and around the globe. And it had nothing to do with pitching our services. It has nothing to do with marketing. It has everything to do with creating a place that is a safe, high value, high engagement place, executive peer group for an underserved community. And they love it.
It's
And we
amazing.
get to be the host. And so our brand is in front of them and we get to serve them well by offering value every month with these meetings, which are free to all integrators. And in return, they know we exist. And when they have a marketing need, they know that we're here for them and they trust us because we've already helped them.
I think it's so. I think that the community building and content trust building is so important, especially because of how much everybody is exposed to every day. And like everybody has got to, it's their own stories of being screwed over, or reading wrong information, or information from someone that didn't follow through with, what they had to say. So that
Yes.
trust hurdle gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so like this concept of community, Jennifer, is so intriguing to me because you're right. I mean, it's like this machine that the dividends are trusting relationships that pop out of it. It's so freaking hard to track that. And so like how do you like it? I've personally struggled the heck to so much with this, is that how do you know that what you're doing is the right approach when you're building a community or doing that
Yeah.
long-term play like that?
Yeah.
Because yeah, like and for me, I know it's the right approach, but how do you prove that
Yeah.
what you're doing is the right approach other than just the gut?
Yeah, there's proof points along the way. Okay. So for me, it all started by centering on what's our purpose in the world, who should matter to us, why should we matter to them, how do we build something that gives them value. We started there with a hypothesis, right? Tied to our vision and our purpose. Then we started implementing on our hypothesis and started beta testing this program month over month. We committed, right? Like a commitment mindset. Like
Mhm.
this is not an experiment, it's a commitment. So we put out the dates, right? Month over month. And then inside of that commitment, we're looking for feedback loops, real time. We want to be agile and adaptive. We want to lean into the opportunity and back away from anything that doesn't serve this community. So that happens in a couple ways. I ask all the time, like my inbox is open, my phone's open. I want to hear what's working, what's valuable to you. We do a real-time survey at the end of every single meeting. And to date, 100% of those surveyed say they're coming back again. That is a powerful indication
Mhm.
that we're on the right track and we're doing something right, and we need to lean in more on that, right? We've brought on supporting partners as sponsors to help offset the costs. And because sponsors see value in connecting their brand to this community, we know there's value, right? Like
Mhm.
all these proof points along the way. And now we're 18 months in, and I can look at my pipeline of opportunities that I'm actively working on right now, and a huge percent of them are connected to this integrator community, not directly in a straight line way where you could look at my database and see the attribution. This is where B2B marketing is complicated. It's the indirect ways where the person reached out to me on LinkedIn through a message because they've been noticing what I'm posting about it, where
Mhm.
somebody from within the community refers someone else they know who can use our services, where one of our supporting partners refers somebody in, right? It's these threads that tie together that all are held together by trust.
Mhm.
Trust. Like,
Mhm.
imagine how different if I had said, I want to build a database of integrators and I want to market my services to them. And I'm going to go out to Zoom Info and LinkedIn and I'm going to scrape
I
data.
know.
I'm
Right.
going to scrape data and I'm going to push the data into my database and I'm going to blast people with a message they didn't ask for, didn't want, brings them no value, and is a pitch. Do you
Mhm.
think I'd have the trust of 1,000 people? No
No,
way.
you
In
get
8
10. It's a complete numbers game. Like you said, make your brand suck faster. And it's like, it's, well, and it's so interesting because I think that what, that following the EOS, because, you and I both talk a lot about that, is like, you got the visionary salespeople that normally think in bubbles and charts versus like my old business is built on rows and columns with the
Yes.
finance. But like, for me, like I can go like, well, because I got like, and as I track our customer database, I'm giving my example, so all the listeners listening, I hopefully that you can pull your own experience out of this. Is my database out of my customers? How did they get into this? Well, I
Yeah.
like actually built like multiple columns in the CRM, saying, okay, well, I know this was the first contact, but then I know they were nurtured by the podcast, or like it's so hard because it's not a linear
It's not linear.
engagement like you said. And it's like, well, I know that the reason, like I talked to this guy today, he knows this guy who knows that guy who saw me at the this one thing that was on purpose. Like, so I kind of expected this conversation, but it was random because I didn't expect it today, but it was on purpose that there should be relationships being generated out of the activities that I'm doing.
That's
So like
right.
it's so difficult. And I think, one that's what makes it so scary, I think, Jennifer, to people that are going, okay, I know I'm 5 million in revenue. I want to get to 15, get for all the reasons that we know we want to grow a company. And okay, so then I'm going to go from me getting these highly qualified leads to what is it going to cost and how long is this going to take
Yeah.
to do this on faith? And it's scary
Yeah.
as hell.
It's super scary. Here's a little bit of kind of practical guidance I would offer. So, first of all, the way that I've gauged my marketing investment for Authentic Brand is not formulaic in the sense of a percent of my current revenue or anything like that. The way that I think about it is where do I want to be 2 years from now as an organization? I ought to be making a marketing investment at that size because the range and the coverage and the seeds I'm planting today need to be the harvest I reap 2 years from now because I
Okay,
know my
that's good.
sales cycle. So I'm investing forward. I don't think of marketing as a cost. I think of it as an
Mm-hmm.
investment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I invest forward so that the returns on that investment are there waiting for me in the future. I invest consistently. During COVID, we did not stop investing in marketing. In fact, we doubled down and took the quieter time during the initial pause to rebuild some of our architecture ourselves and enhance some of our strategies. And that's already paying off this year. And then here's the other thing I would say to business owners. You own the business. You're fully in control of your decisions. You just need to have a really strong marketing partner who wants to be your partner in stewarding your resources at the pace that you're comfortable with, at the investment level you're comfortable with, that matches where you want to be. And somebody not afraid to challenge you, not a yes person, but a here's another way to look at it person. Okay. So your resources are your resources. They are what they are. I have
Mm-hmm.
never yet worked for or within a business, startup or global enterprise, that gave me unlimited budget and unlimited staff and unlimited time to achieve the results, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your resources are your reality layer. So within those resources, the best thing you can do is work with somebody who brings wisdom to your investment strategy in the marketing mix, and then get very, very, very focused. Can I tell you a little story about baseball?
Go for it. I love it.
Okay. So I like to tell this silly analogy to our prospective clients because it tends to resonate with them. With most small businesses who are founder led and sales driven, the idea of marketing investment is really scary, especially when a marketing leader will start talking about focusing in on your target audience, focusing in on your strategies, right? Focusing on the focus more narrowly, because business owners and salespeople get nervous that focus will mean you have to say no to growth opportunities, no to revenue. They want to chase anything that has dollars attached, right?
Squirrel.
Often that's in the early stage of business, that's what you do. You say yes to everything to figure out what you're good at and what you do best and what you love best. But eventually, you've got to get focused and be differentiated to stand out. So think of your organization as a baseball team. Think of your delivery, your product or services team as your outfield. They have a huge range of solutions they could provide to potentially any potential buyer, right? Lots of range. Think of your sales team as your infielders. Like they're a little bit more narrow in what they're chasing, but they still have some range to customize to what the client solution needs to be, or to land and then expand outwardly and draw upon your delivery organization. But think of your marketing organization as your pitcher. Your best marketing program has the smallest strike zone, very tight strike zone, because when you aim your limited resources to a very limited window, you're going to put all your energy between the highest, best, healthiest, most profitable deals that you could pursue, instead of scatter spraying your limited resources across a wide range and diluting the impact and potentially drawing in low value, pain in the butt clients, non-profitable engagements, things that take your delivery team off into the Amazon. It's just like your marketing team has to be incredibly focused and your resources should be really focused. So one of the most important things we do as fractional CMOs is help our clients learn to say no and not yet to a lot of good ideas so that they can say yes to a few very powerful ideas most likely to drive healthy growth.
So that was an amazing analogy, and that landed on me, who is not a big sports guy. So like that proved, yeah. I'll tell you what, it worked. No, that's awesome, and I think it's I want to pull back to Jennifer. There's so many good things that you've been saying about the 2 years, investing from 2 years out, and what was super interesting is it's an investment, not a cost center. And honestly, this is like what we try to help people with too, because it's all about how you view it on the financials. So like on your income statement, you're saying like, where is this getting categorized? Because it's going to lend like how you actually act on it because of where it's placed on your income statement. And there was a book I read a few years ago now. Have you ever read Killing Marketing? Is it Joe Pelosi?
No, but I love Joe.
Oh, so okay. I like that like it's a whole long book, but I took one thing away from it. Marketing is not a cost, it's an investment. And he literally says kill it as a cost center, create it. And he has all these examples, Jennifer, that like just hit me like a ton of bricks. Was if you build a content brand that people would pay for, it's going to generate all the other stuff. And he gives
That's right.
examples of like Legos. They now have movies, they have events and all this stuff. And oh, by the way, we sell plastic shit. And then, I mean, I'm summarizing it, but like, and then he like Lifetime Fitness. They talked about like the Experience magazine was garbage, and then they actually made it a profit center because it was a free magazine. Everybody knew it was free, but then they created this profit center that essentially just at break even was going to generate the trust and for people to go to the profit making machine. And I was just like, huh.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah,
this what has been the difficult part is to do what you're saying, which is to do it with focus and not be scared to death that you're going to piss away a bunch of money
that's right.
and be wrong.
No, that's right. And especially right now, Ryan, and I know we're getting close to the top of our hour, but I want to throw this current reality in. We're living in a weird, wild marketplace right now, right? The ripple effects of COVID are still showing up in really unpredictable ways, making the market really hard to feel confident about for business owners. And here's why. Like the economy seems pretty strong and interest and appetite are high. Like there's money to be spent. But for companies who are service companies and product companies, our resources are locked up. The talent market is incredibly challenging and competitive right now and mobile. And the resources market, there's a lot of things stuck on ships across the, Pacific right now. So supply chain demand problems are real. And I've never heard more business owners say, hey, the growth is there for the taking, but we don't have the delivery ability right now.
Mm-hmm.
Our
100%.
resources are all locked up. So we're reducing our growth expectation by 30% this year, right? And how angsty does that make you as a business owner? It's like, oh, yeah, really angsty.
Yeah.
So a knee-jerk reaction for these businesses has been, we're going to pause marketing. We're going to draw back on marketing. We're going to stop hiring in marketing because we don't need more demand. We need more resources to deliver on the demand we have. Okay, that's a danger zone in terms of your marketing thinking. You need to embrace a mindset shift, not a marketing investment shift. So it's true. You don't need to be driving a lot of demand, but you need to be building your brand because we are going to come through this hairy time in the volatile market. The dust will settle. The demand will be there for the taking for the brands that didn't stop investing in building trust, creating positive experience, sharing the value of wisdom and thought leadership, creating meaningful human connections. They're going to meet the market at the other side of this turbulence and be ready to capitalize on it when the resources start flowing again.
Amen. I mean, mic drop on that comment. The question that I would have to follow up that is, what are the ways people are doing what you just said?
How are they shifting their mindsets?
Well, the building the trust. So is
Yeah.
it webinars or is it these communities? Is it events? Is it
Yep.
write more
Yep.
content? Get a
Yep.
video. I mean, everybody's podcasting these days. So like again, like people, what you said, I think any logical person is going to go, of course. But then it's like,
But how?
yeah, and like, how are you like? What are the ways that are actually effective to grow trust as you're doing and build your brand, which is
Yeah.
all encompassing.
Well, this is going to sound trite, perhaps, but I have to start all the way back at where we began, which is what's your purpose? Who matters or should matter to you? Why should you matter to them? And how do you intersect their world? Therein lies the answer as to what the tactics should be. Too many people are starting with, well, but then what should I do? No, it's why am I doing what I'm doing? For whom am I doing it? And where do they live in the world? And what matters to them? Okay? Stop asking, what should you do? Ask yourself, what do my people need from me? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then design the packaging around it. It might look like direct mail to 5 people with something really surprising and delighting that they get to open at their home office. That might be what it looks like.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? And I think about like how ridiculous, now that you put it that way, like what I've been asking you, like when someone comes and is like, how much should we take in distributions? I'm like, I have so many questions. Like, or should I sell or should I not? I'm like, oh my goodness, like where are we going to start? Because what do you want and why?
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
This has been so much fun. So a couple follow-up questions as we're getting close here is, one is, I love to know what people mean by intentional, what their definition of it is, because the name of the show, what is your definition of the word intentional?
Well, I didn't know you'd ask me this, so I'm going to shoot from the hip here. When I think of the word intentional, I also think of when you do things with a sense of purpose toward a specific outcome, right? So for me, I was asked a couple of years ago, what does success mean to you? And I think it's kind of the same answer, which is living a life without regrets. When you do things with intentionality, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn from those mistakes. But you've been intentional with where you've directed your time, your talents, your funding, your vision. So any of the bumps that come along the way are just part of teaching you how to achieve that, right?
Ooh, I like that one. That one's going to be one for the archives. Last question is, where do the listeners find more about you, Authentic Brand, and Random Acts of Marketing and all the content you're putting out there?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very accessible on LinkedIn, and I would love to connect personally with anybody who's hearing the sound of my voice on this podcast. So just look for Jennifer Zick. I'll be there and happy to connect. And then my company can be found at authenticbrand.com. That's not plural, it's all one word, authenticbrand.com, where we have a resource center on our library full of great blog content, videos. I like to produce a lot of short video thought nuggets, I call them, and I throw those up online now and then, and on-demand webinars and other resources. So I hope you'll check it out. That's where you can start to dig in on random acts of marketing and what it looks like to overcome those.
Jennifer, thank you for coming on this show, and this has been an absolute blast.
It's been so much fun, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me as your guest today.